What's up, goobers? Welcome back to another episode of Ben Talks Bots Discussions. I'm very pleased with how the first one did. Like, that was such a surprise to me, especially since it was the first of its kind. Although I sort of knew that that one was going to be more popular than, like, I thought it would be, because it's like a top 10 list, you know. But anyway, so for this video, we're going to be going over, as was voted by you guys, although it was very close, we're going to be talking about Transformers who wear clothes. And I was just scrolling through, like, on the TF Wiki, you know, and I just sort of had the idea. This is one of the pages that is on the TF Wiki, is just clothing, and I found it so fascinating that there are quite a few, like, noble examples, and these aren't all of them. That's for you to like look at yourself. I'll link the actual article below so that you can see, like, all this info for yourself, but I just picked out sort of like my favorite examples, and let's just go through them now. I have it set up in sort of 3 sections, so this is the first section here. And well, okay, so as like a starter, I wanted to talk about this because I find like it very funny, but also kind of cool, because you can get away with a lot in terms of like enhancing like a Transformer look, surprisingly, by putting like some clothes on them. And there are like some comedic examples that I'll bring up, but like most of it use it to like heighten character traits, I guess. So that's the best way to put it. It shows more who they are. So that's always something that I say is good. So for our first section here, we have capes and cloaks. Now this can range. Honestly, I think this is the most like popular like a category for a Transformer to have, and so I sort of have 5 mentions here that I think are some of my most like notable from at least the list given on the TF Wiki, which I said will be linked down below. My first one's obvious, Starscream from the Transformers 1986 movie. That was really one of the first examples, I guess, other than like a side gag and the show where they like wore a bunch of lab coats, but this was like the first like primary example of just like, oh, so they can have crowns and capes and like other like stuff on them, and that's always like sort of stayed with Starscream is sort of that coordination look, and it's because it looks so good, and it enhances what Starscream is a lot, and that is vain. He's very vain of himself. So honestly, like that's like a top 3 or 4 sort of like Transformers who wear clothes character is Starscream, because he was one of the first, and he owns it like very well. And so for my next one here, I have Darker the Moon Megatron. This was probably the one that I have the most like a nostalgia for, I think, because that was pretty much like one of my only Darker the Moon toys from like 2011 or something was the Voyager Megatron, and I love that figure so much. I don't enjoy Studio Series as much, unfortunately. It just doesn't have as much fun going on, and I think it's too complicated. But there's just something magical about that one. I just love it so much. But in terms of like the character in the movie, he's obviously like a very ashamed, like beaten, like a broken leader, and he's like, oh man, like I hate myself so much. I have to be like an Earth vehicle, God forbid. Goodness. So he puts a cloak over himself to sort of like hide himself, which I find very, very fascinating, actually, that version of Megatron would do that. But sort of staying in like that cloak sort of region, we have a Lockdown from Animated, which is funny. I talk about Lockdown in like 2 of these videos now, but Lockdown in like his space poncho, as I heard it called. It makes a lot of sense, because he's like a bounty hunter, supposed to look cool, and so a space poncho sort of enhances that. And I think it also hides some of like his lankiness too, so it makes him look more bulky, which I think is cool. And then obviously, like I said in the top 10 video I just did, but Lockdown's just like personally like one of my favorite characters, and him just being like an atypical, like he has no faction, he has a space poncho, like that makes him so cool. And so our fourth example in this category would be Wildwheel from Cyberverse. I find Wildwheel hilarious. I kind of like this story in Cyberverse, you know, where like he was I believe he was one of Optimus Prime's best friends, but then he felt betrayed, and then he turned into like a Decepticon, like a bounty hunter. Like, it's pretty much like a version of like Armada Wheeljack, but I mean, he looks cool in like his poncho, that I think is part of his alt mode. I don't know. See, I'm trying to remember what it is in the show, and I know he transforms into like a car. And I know he had the toy where, like, you could like take off the hat, but I don't remember if it was like a part of him or not. I mean, from the picture it looks like it, but who knows? And then probably one of my favorite examples, and probably one of my favorite pieces of Transformers art ever, is that of Optimus Prime and Megatron essentially wearing like matching capes. So you have like a Optimus wearing like a purple cape, and then you have a Megatron wearing like a red cape. And this is probably the closest they're ever gonna be seen as like a couple. I mean, I know that there are some of you out there. I'm a fan of it sometimes, not all the times, but like I'm down. But it's just so cool. And from what I know, like sort of like the context of this is like them in like a Cybertron like alliance, and you can even see like in the photo I'm showing you, it's sort of like the merged like a faction logos too, and then there's just like a blaster there in the background for some reason. But I've always loved this piece of art so much because it's just so cool. Like, it feels so cool. And yeah, this is pretty much Optimus Prime and Megatron married. That's pretty much what this is. So that's personally my favorite from the capes and cloaks category. So moving on, we have sort of coats and other sort of clothing. This covers pretty much the rest. The main article I'm pulling from has like a lot of options. Like, it even has a whole other category, which I took like a few from. But is this really like the other clothes that isn't like capes and stuff? Because like those are like the most popular. So first I want to talk about the Airstrike Patrol, which is a Micromaster team from the comics. And you can sort of see them here. They're wearing like regular clothes almost, but they're like shaded in darkness. When I was just like looking through on the wiki page, I was just laughing. But I was actually laughing more at this next picture, which is of the Space Minicon team from Armada, and they're literally just dudes hanging out. I love this so much. I feel like that this should happen more often. If like minicons are included more in media, they have to dress like people. I mean, it's just funny, and it also just looks kind of cool. It's just me, or does this look kind of cool? I think it looks cool. But yeah, I'm not that familiar with either of these contexts. It's obviously some form of human disguise, and I think like the Micromasters and the Minicons can probably get away with it. But actually, my next example is probably one of the more like a prominent examples on this list, kind of up there with Starscream. Is Hound, and because like he has so much like on him. Like, he has bandoliers. He has like an ammo on him. He's got like a helmet that like he takes off. I like Hound. Even though I don't think he was meant to be Hound. He was definitely meant to be Bulkhead. It was definitely an interesting direction to take sort of the Transformers philosophy. I'll talk about another character from the movie in a bit. But it was definitely, they went more humanoid with the Transform design, and I'm not a huge fan. But it can work, and I think Hound and like another character on this list work very well in my opinion. And sort of like my last and probably my favorite example, other than the Optimus and Megatron on the list, and that is Nightbeat. He's commonly like sort of depicted in sort of like a noir, sort of drab, like sort of not drab, sort of like noir, like a detective look. And it's just awesome. I've always loved Nightbeat, and this is probably why. Because it's sort of goofy, but it's taking itself seriously. So it's like a serious Goofy, something like that. But I love Nightbeat. He pulls off this look very well. And I really do wish he was in more things. Because I know that he was in IDW. I don't think he was ever in G1. And that's about it, right? I think so. He hasn't had a lot, but I really do hope that he gets it's time to shine more. Okay, so this is sort of like the interesting category I have here. So this is sort of the do they count category. And this was sort of just stuff I thought about like as I was reading the page. And I was like, does this count? So, firstly, faceplates. A lot of Transformers have faceplates. Some of them have removable faceplates. And I'm sort of thinking, does that count as like an article of clothing? Or is that like just built into them? Like, I don't know where that line is drawn, but I think it should still be brought up, you know? Because like it feels like an optional thing. And I feel like for a Transformer, all clothing is optional. If you couldn't tell, they're robots. So, I feel like to some degree, the faceplates could count as a clothing, but at the same time, it like you can argue that it's not. I don't know. That's something that I think you guys should discuss in the comments. Along with the rest of these, feel free to think like these should be in the comments below. And I said I would bring him up later, but Crosshairs. What do we do with Crosshairs? I can say definitively that his goggles are a part of like a clothing on him. But then you get to like his weird trench coat thing, and I love Crosshairs, by the way. Because I don't know, I love Autobots that can sometimes like just be like a head. You know, so yeah, but like his trench coat is a part of his vehicle mode, but that also gets transformed into like a part of him. So when does that stop becoming a part of him and like clothing? I don't know. That's why it's in this part of the list. But that's probably like the best example I can think of where it's just like, would this count? Other than my last one, which is Pretenders. I mean, they're just costumes, right? They're just costumes. I think so. They are putting on an outfit, a disguise, a human disguise, but then they can like wear clothing on top of that. So like that would definitely be clothing. But I'm talking about like the Pretender shell itself. Like that's a costume, right? Which would be clothing. I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy over here. I think that Pretenders would count as an article of clothing for Transformers. It could, right? Can you tell I'm tired? But I can totally see the argument that they're not. That's totally understandable. But I feel like, in my opinion, Pretenders should count as an article of clothing. But yeah, that is pretty much the whole list.
Ahem.
What? What are you doing?
It is I, King Dracodon, and hereby am ruling. Hey. Huh?
You'll be okay. You'll be okay. You'll be fine. But regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. I am very glad that you guys watch my videos. It makes my day. Turns out I was right. Student teaching is a lot of work, but I will make this work. This seems like a good time to film. And like I said, tell me what you think about like Transformers clothing, like in general, in the comments below, because it's definitely like an interesting topic. But yeah, I will see you guys next week. Have a good one.